And who else is here? Jose, what's happening, man? R&R, good to see you. And let's see here. Who else is up? The gorgeous Tessa has returned. And come on. Ed Parnell, how you doing? Bob Birkins, good to see you. And I think we are Jean Baptiste, thanks for coming on in. We're going to run out of time here. I can guarantee it, but we are caught up. Super Chat is open. It's a great way to support what we do on this show. Thank you to all the veterans tuning us in. Hey, regulars, do us a favor. Get those horns up. It's time to rock in right now. From the mountains of central British Columbia to you listening around the world, this, my friends, is Spaced Out Radio. I am your host, Dave Scott, sitting in the captain's chair of SOR headquarters. We welcome you to tonight's show on our terrestrial affiliates around North America, digitally on TalkStream Live, Revolution Radio, and KPNL. All of our archives are free by going to youtube.com/Spaced Out Radio. Do me the favor, hit that subscribe button. You can follow us on Twitter @Spaced Out Radio and on Instagram, Spaced Out Radio Show. Our website is spacedoutradio.com. We have a plethora of features for you, including rocking out Bumblefoot and reading up on Captain Shirk's SOR Newswire. Tonight's show is brought to you by Chive Charities. Help make the world 10% happier by visiting Chive Charities today. You can find them on our website. Oh, a good friend of this show is back. Lynn Monet is a world-renowned author of Omnipresent. Omnipresent, What Happened Next? And the soon-to-be-released Colors of Heaven Beings Never End. Lynn is a paranormal consultant and lecturer specializing in hauntings and afterlife. She is an empath with the ability to see frequencies interdimensionally that most cannot. She has been a nurse for over 20 years, most of which has been in end-of-life care, management, and geriatrics. Her website, Lynn Monet, MONET.com. You want to check it on out. Now, we only got Lynn via audio tonight, but Lynn, we're glad to have you here. How you doing?
I'm doing great. I'm really, really excited and happy to be here, and I appreciate you having me back.
Oh, yeah. Well, we kind of like you around here. I hope you don't mind that.
I'm glad. I like being around here.
It's very good. It's very good. And this is your second appearance on the show. And I wanted to say thank you so much for coming on, because we had a lot of positive comments about your previous time on Spaced Out Radio. So it's great to have you back here on the show. And so with that, I want to introduce you, because obviously we have new listeners each and every time. And I want to basically just introduce you to everybody else. I did you get into the paranormal field? Has this been a lifelong adventure for you?
Well, actually, as a little girl, I was able to see things. I was born in the 60s, grew up in the 70s, and of course, those types of things you didn't talk about, especially outside of the family. They were kind of, those things were kind of squelched within the family. And so there was a period of time, too, when I was about 10 years old, that my religious beliefs kind of came into play and kind of scared me with the abilities that I had. So I kind of tried to forget about them and pretend that I didn't have them. And then they kind of reopened as I got older. And then I purchased a haunted house, unbeknownst to me 13 years ago, that just blew everything wide open, and is the reason for which I wrote my book and started seeking ways to help people that have issues with hauntings.
Has the paranormal always been in your blood?
It has. My father was, he had some paranormal tendencies that he kind of hid as well. But all of my siblings and I, we've always been able to see things. And even though we would get in trouble for talking about them in the house, we would talk about them amongst each other. So, we had our little secrets that way. in the area that we lived in Southeast Florida, and of course we lived near a hospital, so we sometimes would see patients in patient gowns walking through our house, or Indians walking through our house, and things like that. So yeah, I have a gifted family, and we all have our gifts kind of in different ways.
Growing up in a family that has always exhibited those types of behaviors with the paranormal, how different of a life is it growing up like that compared to what the most of us have to live through, which is boringness. No,
actually, we were chastised for it more than anything, especially in the family, because back then it was all about the Joneses, what the neighbors thought. They didn't want this type of thing to get out into the neighborhood because you were considered, crazy. They'd send the men with white coats. So it was something that they wanted to, my parents wanted to cover up and bury. And as far as, religious beliefs go, we were Presbyterian. There was a period of time that my mother went into another religion. She was a Jehovah's Witness for a little while. And that was very traumatic, because I was brought in front of the elders at 10 years old and told basically that, that I was seeing demons, and that there was something wrong with me, and that I was, going to die in Armageddon, which was a big deal back then. So, it scared me so badly that I didn't talk about it. And even when I would see glimpses of things, I would try to deny it to myself in order to appear normal like everyone else.
That's got to be traumatic, though.
It was. The whole thing was traumatic. My father actually, hid a lot of his talents by drinking. So, but he was a sensitive as well. And, but there weren't really outlets of places that you could go and discuss those kinds of things. Whereas like now, there are people that have meditation groups. Everybody knows that hauntings happen. Whether they want to believe it or not, and there's a lot more support out there than there was way back then.
For sure. So, now you have been a professional nurse for the last 20 years, working in end-of-life capacity here, helping people transition to the other side. I got to tell you, that is one of those jobs that absolutely freaks the living daylights out of me. I don't
really
know. I am horrified of death. Horrified. And what's that like, working in that type of environment?
I actually, I did the geriatrics and end-of-life care for 17 years. I've actually been a nurse for 37, but I just stop at 20 and say 20 plus for 17 years of it. And there's actually a beauty to crossing over. And if people could get past the part of being freaked out with death, and also they're in their grieving process, they're missing out on a very beautiful time that they can actually also communicate with the other side. With the ability that I have, I'm able to see from a nursing medical standpoint the body physically transitioning into death, and also I can see them the souls preparing on the other side of the veil, so to speak, for the reception of the person that's going to be crossing over. And a lot of times, people before when they're getting ready to pass, it sometimes can happen a year in advance. Different things. You'll start to hear your loved one talking about people that have died, and everybody kind of freaks out. Oh, Grandma Josephine's talking about Uncle Richie, and he died 5 years ago, and she's talking to him in her room. Well, Uncle Richie is really there, and just because the people in the room besides her can't see them doesn't mean that he's not. And because people become so freaked out, oh, she's hallucinating, get the drugs for her, and type thing. If they would stop and take that opportunity, they have to stay very, very neutral, because if they are afraid, or if they're going through sadness, any of those beautiful beings from the other side that come forward can exacerbate the situation. So you have to stay very, very neutral. So if you're scared, leave the room if somebody else wants to talk to them. But while Grandma Josephine's talking to your uncle or whoever it is, a lot of times you can say, hey, we're to ask Uncle Roger where he left his hat. And she can answer that question for you. She can ask him. A lot of times too, you can, if you're, if you stay in that neutral state and you can say, well, say hello to so-and-so. And they'll say, oh, well, he said hello back, and that you have a nice blue shirt on. The thing about these so-called hallucinations, which they're not, is that these people that are getting ready to cross over are talking about people that they've actually known in this lifetime. And a lot of times the people in the room may have also known some of those people when they were alive in this lifetime. It's not like they're talking about pink elephants climbing on the wall or things like that. And I think a lot of people are in the room, the guests here tonight, or some of them can definitely relate to this, if they've had a loved one pass away and they've been in the room with them and they're talking to people, or they're reaching up into the sky like they're being handed something and they're reaching out. That they can relate to that, and it's mistaken often with the medical world as hallucinating. I've had many situations, and that's actually being written in the book coming out in December, as well as pieces of it that are being written in this new book that's a sequel to Omnipresent, that is Omnipresent: What Happened Next, because when a person passes, they have the choice to either choose to cross over or not. So I kind of divided the books because one is a little bit more dark and one is this beautiful heavenly story talking about people crossing over and different things, and even what heaven looks like for that matter. I had just with the hallucination thing, I had a sweet lady, I'm going to call her Abigail. She had come with her husband to the facility that I was working in, and had 3 levels of care. And she kind of transitioned into the 3rd level of care, which was the skilled unit where I was working. And she used to talk about her parents, which of course had passed away eons ago. And she would talk about this woman and this little girl that would come and visit her in her room. And so the doctors would load her up with Seroquel. They'd give her Buspar, all of these medications for hallucination, but she continued to talk about them. And this one particular day, I was going down the hallway to start my treatments at the end of the hall, and I passed by her room. And as I was passing her room out of my peripheral vision, I saw this woman and this little girl standing in her room. And the patient, Abigail, was leaning forward in her recliner with a piece of butterscotch wrapped candy in her hand, trying to hand it to the little girl. And I thought to myself, well, wait a minute, I've been at the nurse's station. I've been doing my documentation for about an hour. I don't remember those people signing in. And of course, you have to have everyone sign in for a head count so that if there's an emergency, they know how many souls are in the facility that they need to get out and get to safety. So I backed up, and the way that the window was, it was kind of centered in the wall, and there was this air conditioner thing, kind of like they have in motels and hotels, underneath the window. Abigail was sitting to the left in her recliner, and when I stepped back, it looked like she was still holding that candy out, but she was holding it. It looked like she was trying to feed the air conditioner. So I thought the people had backed up a little bit, and I went into the room, and I realized that what I had seen were not people. I could see up close. I could see it's kind of like they're vapors, like gas vapors coming out of a gas can or off of a hot road, that waffling effect to the air, where I can see them in much more detail out of my peripheral vision or at a distance. But up close, I can just feel the energy and I can see the movement. And Abigail says to me, she said, "Isn't the little girl beautiful?" And I said, "Yes." I said, "Yes, she is." And she said, "Can you see them?" And I said, "Yes." And she said, "Well, don't tell anybody. They'll put you on medication." So she had the wherewithal to understand that talking about these beings that other people could not see would put you on medication. And I mean, she continued to talk about them anyway. And she then ended up passing away about 6 months later. So she was getting close to the time. But with a lot of people, they start to see people from the other side. And like I said, this is an opportunity. If people could look at it a little bit differently and take that opportunity. I mean, how many times in life has somebody said, I wish that I could just tell so-and-so I'm sorry, or I wish I could tell so-and-so I love them one more time, or I wish that, they were, at so-and-so's graduation, or I wish they were here to see this beautiful wedding. Well, they are there. They are there. They might be sitting right next to you. They usually don't sit on top of people, but if there is a spare seat, they might be sitting there, or they do a bleachering effect kind of off to the back in the corner where a whole bunch of them are there for all of those things. And people don't realize too that you can talk to them like I'm talking to you. You can talk to them out loud. They can hear you. And sometimes they can come forward and help you with some things. When my mother was passing away, I was in the room with her, and it was a very, very beautiful time because I could see some of the movement on the other side of the room, and occasionally I'd see a shoulder stick out or a foot stick out. And as the day went on, the veil between the dimensions started to efface because we were on a third dimension out of 12, and the other side is the fifth dimension. So as the veil started to efface, I could see more and more into there. My mother at that point was, she was still aware of people coming in and out of the room, although she had her eyes shut, she couldn't speak anymore, but she would appropriately try to mouth words, and her eyebrows would go up and down in response to anyone that would speak to her. And with that being said, as the veil effaced, I saw my mother's mother, who had crossed over 20 years before, coming into the room, and she came over to the bed of where my mother was. I was on the opposite side, and she started stroking my mom's forearm. And she leaned over and she whispered into my mother's ear, and my mother's mouth started moving like she was trying to mouth words, and her eyebrows started going up and down. And then my grandmother stood up, and then she leaned forward, and it was appropriate. I mean, every time my grandmother would lean forward to whisper something in my mom's ear, my mother would respond with that same trying to move her mouth. So as my grandmother's standing there continuing to stroke my mother's arm, I see behind my grandmother a hand just waving frantically. And I looked, and it was the beautiful face of my youngest sister. My youngest sister was murdered by a jealous boyfriend when she was 20. And he shot a Baptist minister's son. He shot her in the head. But anyway.
Oh, terrible. I'm sorry to hear that.
Yeah. So I saw her come from behind, and I could smell her perfume. And I in that moment, it felt like she was almost hugging me because she was coming around. I could feel her hair coming over my face. She had this long, beautiful waist-length dark hair. And like I said, I could smell her. And as she went back around the group of people, it was like the whole wall was now wide open, and I could see all of these people. Some of them I recognized, some of them I did not. But I said to my mom at that point, I looked over at her and I gave her a kiss on the cheek, and I said, Mom, Grandma and Robin are here, and they're here to help you cross over. It's time to go. And she started mouthing, and her eyebrows started going up and down. And so within 10 minutes, she took her last breath. But, I'm sitting in this room, and the elation and the feeling is undescribable that came from those joyous beings on the other side. It was like the most satisfying food, it's just not even describable. I saw colors on the other side that we don't even have here. We would need multiple color spectrums to even imagine some of the colors of the beautiful flowers and plants and things that they have over there. And the light, there was not a light source. It was as if the light emitted from within the air itself, if that even makes sense. But in that moment, I was watching this. I'm grinning from ear to ear. You can't help but not smile watching all of this going on. And I realized I see these people, they're like huddling like in a football hold up near the top of my mom's bed. And I'm like, what on earth are they doing? That's kind of weird. So I'm watching them, and as they stand up, my mother is actually standing in the middle of them. And I'm grinning from ear to ear. You can't help but feel the joy from the elation. And I'm watching this. And then I looked over and I realized that my mom had stopped breathing.
Oh, no.
And I started thinking to myself, I'm like, oh my gosh, here I am sitting here grinning from ear to ear. My mother has just stopped breathing, and they're probably going to think I put a pillow over her head. So I better call somebody, because it's not a normal response. When someone passes, that you're sitting there smiling. So I called the nurse. She walked through the festivities that were going on spiritually and pronounced that my mother had passed away. And I said, can I please, sit here a little bit longer? And, in that moment, my mother's body was there, but I was looking at my mother's spirit, and my mother was greeting these people. They were coming up to her. And like I said, some of them I recognized, some of them I did not, but she did. There were people that, maybe that I never met, that maybe she went to school with and things like that. And this whole thing went on for like 20 minutes of our time. And I don't know if I've heard the saying of leaving a window cracked, or leaving, something cracked when someone passes away. And I don't know if this was just coincidental or not, but as they started to leave, they all filed out past me towards the windows that were to the back of me. Now, that might have been the direction that they were going in anyway. But as each one passed me to my left, I could feel them kind of leaning over, like kissing me on the top of my head, because I was sitting down. And I could recognize my mother as she was coming forward. She was still in her patient gown because she had beautiful legs, and I recognized her legs. And they all went ahead and they left. And I was so thankful for that gift, because my grieving completely shifted at that point, because I knew where my mother was. I knew who she was with. She was overjoyed and happy and just radiant and beautiful. And, to this day, it's like my mother's not even gone. I mean, I'm speak up and I said, hey, Mom, don't you ever miss the taste of potato salad and those brownies that you used to make? And she comes right through and she says, well, here we don't eat things. However, if we think about them, the sensation comes to us as if we are eating it. The sensation of the flavor, the sensation of that sort of thing. And I thought that was very, very interesting. My mother also, before she passed away, she passed away of cancer, and she didn't want to go through any more treatment. So we had like a year together to kind of check off a bucket list, go through old pictures, and she could tell me who people were that I didn't know who they were in the pictures, so that I could, of course, pass them on in the generations. And she wrote out recipes and stuff like that, and got exactly what the measurement of the pinch was, or the dash of this. Mm-hmm. And
that's important measurement to get, because yes. I know, for instance, my grandmother makes the greatest pancakes, and I don't know what the pinch and dash is. She won't tell me. She will not tell me. Lynn, I'm going to get you to hold on right there.
Okay.
Because we are going to go to a break here at the bottom of the hour. Lynn Monet is our guest tonight on Spaced Out Radio. We're having a great night with Lynn, and we are talking about omnipresent, ghosts, hauntings, what it's like to communicate with the other side. She does it all, and she's a wonderful author as well, where you can find her books at lynnmonet.com, MONET.com. We'll be back with more Spaced Out Radio coming up in the second half hour right after this. All right, we're clear. Hey, Oracles, how you doing? Watching this guy right now freak out on Facebook. He's a neighbor of mine. Well, he lives in my area, and he caught a great video of a UFO tonight. Great video of a UFO.
Wow.
Yeah. So I'm getting updates there too. I multitask very, very well. Very well.
That's wonderful. You get bonus points for that.
I do my best. I do my best. Mm-hmm. Hold on. A link here for Lynn is www.lynnmonet.com. Hey, gorgeous Larry, how are you? The stunning Kim Jellin. Hey, Ben at UFO Garage, your hair looked awesome. Are you posting it? I can post it on the Facebook page. Hold on. Or in the group chat right now. Hold on. Seriously, where is it here? Why does this do... Oh. Facebook, for some reason, every time you go to click on view posts, it just spins like anything. So I will put this in here, www.lynnmonet.com. There we go. All right, go there. All right. How you doing, Lynn?
I'm doing great.
Good stuff. Oh, no. Why, Shiny Ray, that's not even nice. Mr. Jones is sending the Big Yellow Taxi 2 songs that I absolutely hate. And now I got them both playing in my head right now. Oh, you are such trouble. Such trouble. Owner, what's happening, man? Larry, I put the link in our Facebook group under the post for the show tonight. Mm-hmm. There we go. There we go. Okay, we've got about 1 minute. Big thank you to Sally for the awesome Super Chat. Remember, Super Chats are a great way to support what we do on this show on a nightly basis, so please, if you can, hand it out. There you go. Just boom. I don't know how to do it. Michael Morris, what's happening? And Mondak, you're wrong, 100% wrong. Yeah. Yes, Big Willie got his Dave Scott, You've Got Aliens panties. I can't wait for you to rock those on the show, man. Cannot wait for you to rock those on the show. That is awesome. I am so pumped up about this.
Are they thongs?
No, it's not a thong, but they're actually very, very cute. Very cute. Willie's pretty proud to be, he's going to be marching around in them. They got little laces around the leg line and the waist. It's very cute. Hold on, everyone. We're going to get going here. You can get them at UFO Garage Store. Second half hour of Spaced Out Radio is now underway. My name is Dave Scott. Thank you so much for taking the time to join us. We really do appreciate earning your listening ears. Want to remind you that if you missed portions of this show or others, check out our free archives by going to youtube.com/Spaced Out Radio. Do me the favor, hit that subscribe button. Our website is spacedoutradio.com, where we have a plethora of features for you, including our brand new swag that we have all over the website. You can check out Bumblefoot and rock out to him, read up on Shirky Poo's Newswire, and much more. You follow us on Twitter at Spaced Out Radio and on Instagram, Spaced Out Radio Show. We continue on tonight with Lynn Monet. We are talking omnipresence. What's it like to die? Oh, just gives me chills thinking about this, Lynn Monet. But you can find all of our books by going to lynnmonet.com. That's LYNNMONET.com. Lynn, welcome back.
Yeah, thank you so much. I wanted to answer a question. Dr. Z. Smith had asked a question about the afterlife world. Yes, it is very similar. It's not like cities as we know it. Everything is a little bit more spread out. The buildings are made of a component that is somewhat opalescent. And it's opaque, so there is a little bit of see-through, a little bit of area to see through. The thing that's interesting too is a lot of times things that we're attracted to in this lifetime, we have already experienced and had on the other side. For instance, people that paint, sometimes they can envision a picture being completed before they've even started it. So when they start painting, they have in their mind what it is what outcome they want for that art. And a lot of times it's because they've already painted it once before and it's in their home on the other side. So, and they bring it into this lifetime as well. And pets are definitely there also. What I did want to say is before my mother passed away, we made an agreement of a way to communicate. And you can do this even after they've passed over. You can talk to them and ask them, to communicate with you. They're able to move things that are very, very lightweight, like hairs or feathers, like sometimes playing cards, things like that. Or you can do like symbology kind of things, whenever my sister's present, I always see a robin bird in the front yard, and she usually comes with a whole flock. So, but with my mother, I asked her, I said, would you please leave me one of your hairs? Now, my mother had this beautiful opalescent, very long hair down to the middle of her back as an older woman. It was beautiful, wavy. And my entire family were all brunettes. So even to this day, and my mother has been gone for 7 years, I'm still finding her hairs. I can fill up a bathtub for a soak and put a little bit of bubbly stuff in it. And a lot of times I will find a hair just gently placed lengthwise on top of those bubbles that is hers. And in a house that she's never even been in with me. There was one, for instance, that there is no way that her hair could have gotten in this one place. I'd gone back to school to further my nursing degree. And I was in a class that literally had 2 tests. So you had to pass them, or there wasn't a lot of leeway, a lot of homework or anything that you could do to make up the difference. But anyway, I had gone to the school bookstore and I had picked up a 3-ring binder, and I had picked up these papers that were supposed to go in the 3-ring binder for the next part of the class. So I bought the items. They went in the bag at the bookstore. I went straight to my vehicle, a vehicle that my mother had never been in. It was a brand new car. I drove to the parking lot of the school, went into the classroom, sat down, removed those items from the bag to put the papers into the 3-ring binder. And when I opened that 3-ring binder, I would fight God for my children. And I swear on my children's lives that my mother's hair was looped beautifully in that center ring, in the teeth of that center ring. It was all looped in there. Now, there is no way, absolutely no way, that hair could have gotten there itself. And it was a very stressful day for me. And we had the agreement that she would leave these hairs for me to find during times that I was very, very stressed out, and that she, so that I would know that she was there. And just also to go back to Dr. Z. Smith, the other part of your question, a lot of the stuff that they do is following all of us around to make sure that we don't make the same mistakes they did. It's that little voice in your head. So that's some of the things that they do. They do artwork, they do music. There are a lot of beautiful things that they do. And they also kind of do life review and have to even, there's classrooms up there. So, and that's all in the book, The Colors of Heaven, Beginnings Never End. It'll be coming out in December. It'll start pre-sale November 1st. It comes out, its release is December 15th. The book that I have that has that was released, pre-sale September 1st, that is being released October 15th, is a little bit more of the side of when a person chooses not to cross over versus crossover. There's this beautiful reception for people that do cross over. They know that you're planning to cross over, but most of the time when there are souls that do not cross over, they also know that they're planning not to cross over, so that reception doesn't all come into play. It's a little bit different. So with that being said, there are a lot of times that people choose not to cross over at the time of death. It can be because maybe they have a loved one that they've been watching over, and perhaps they pass before that person does unexpectedly, so they're still kind of hovering over them to watch over them. Could be a child, a pet, somebody else in their life that needs additional care. And the problem is with that is that those souls, when eventually the person that they were taking care of crosses over, the soul is still stuck here. And the longer that they're earthbound, they kind of lose their way. And there are a lot of dynamics and things that go in with that, where it's not really a good place for a soul to be stuck in between. I call it the fourth dimension, because it's in between the veils of the third and the fifth dimension. A lot of times people will choose not to cross over because of their religious beliefs. I was actually standing in the hallway at work one night, and I had a lady that was actively passing in a room very, very 2 doors down from where I was standing. And when the angels and all of the beauty of the family members that come in to help receive people, it also attracts some of the lost souls that are just curious. They're kind of standing back and watching. And I was standing at my med card, and this man approached that his clothes were like of the latter 1970s, early 80s, the way that he was dressed. And he was very handsome, a man, and he had kind of a Swiss cheese look to his belly area, which when I see people, that usually indicates that they've passed away of like some kind of cancer or like cirrhosis of the liver, something that kind of deteriorates and eats things. So, and that's another thing too. When a soul crosses over, they appear in their perfect form, and they appear in the form that you remember them last. And they do wear clothes. They don't run around naked. When they present to you, they're going to present to you. I mean, it would be more shocking for your grandmother to show up naked than I think that would be more scary than to even have her ghost show up in your room. But anyway, on the flip side, when they choose not to cross over, they still have the impressions of what the cause of death was. If somebody was decapitated, you might see a spirit carrying their head around. If somebody has passed away from a gunshot wound to the chest, that's also visible. And some of the things are very, very gruesome to see. But in the case of this man that approached my med card, he had a very heavy Irish kind of a brogue to his voice. And I look at him, I'm like, why are you here? You know, why haven't you crossed over? And he said, "Milady," you know, he explained that the reason why he had chosen not to cross over was because his wife and his girlfriend were on the other side, and neither one of them knew about the other one. So his fear of being found out that he was cheating on his wife and cheating on, well, I guess he couldn't cheat on his girlfriend if the wife was there, but neither one knew about the other, which, of course, once they crossed over, they knew about it. But he wanted to avoid the repercussions of being confronted on that issue, which I thought that was actually a little bit funny and kind of typical, too, with some cases. But there's also a lot of people that choose not to cross over because of addiction, even. And that's another thing, too, with people that choose not to cross over. They still have emotions. As I said, they still appear with their cause of death and the way that they looked when they died. They also have the residual of their addictions. So if people who are on their, and I'm not saying that people shouldn't be doing these things, you can do what you want, we're all adults, but I'm just saying if people who are on a cigarette break in an area where it's a regular place to have a cigarette break, or like, for instance, a person that goes for cocktail hour in the bar could actually see all of the dead people standing around them trying to smell the fumes or the vapors of the cigarette smoke or the alcohol in their glass, they would freak out. I mean, they would run off and never want to go back to those places ever again. It might even be an effective tool to help some people quit addictions that they've been wanting to quit for a while. I know with me, it would be instant for me. But these things people can't see, and there are these earthbound souls that have chosen not to cross over, that are just huddling all around these people. And when I walk into like a sports bar or something, I can see this. Also, you got to talk about addictions. You know, you might have more than just yourself in the room at one of those adult peep shows. You might have a whole group of people standing there watching the movie with you, or in your house with your it's like rolling out the red carpet for these lost souls to come into your home, and you're supplying them with the entertainment that they were addicted to prior to death, so they're happy to hang out with you in your house. So a lot of times, people will say, "Oh, well, there's this lady, a ghost in my house, but she's harmless." And really, that's not really, she is harmless. And it is in the sense because even though they're not doing anything to you, they're not pulling your covers off of your bed, they're not shaking your bed in the middle of the night, they still have a negative draw about them that can disturb your sleep, that can, and it just, the vibration can create depression. The lack of sleep can cause medical issues that we all know about when you don't get good sleep. So it's really not a good idea, even if they're harmless, to have them stay in your house. And a lot of times they don't realize that they're even dead. And it's because they've lost their way. If you do have someone in your house, please try to help them cross over. And it's very, very simple in the fact that if you ever have seen a spirit, they're usually looking forward. They can look down, they look off to the side, but you never see them looking up. And if you could tell them to look up, the golden cord connects with them and will help them transcend upward. And if you are able to see this happen, you'll be very, very surprised at how quickly it happens. So once they do that, they just all of a sudden latch on and go, that they can look for them and tell them that their family's there. And anything that they've been taught, on this earthly plane about dying in fire and brimstone because they stole something or whatever, they can ask for, they can be forgiven for that and go over. That's not a need for them to stay here because they're afraid that they might go over and meet something other than their maker, although that can happen too, but it's not as much as you think. The other thing is too, I've had some, for instances too, with some of the wandering souls where sometimes they become connected with a more dominant spirit. Sometimes it can be a demon. Sometimes it can be, a lost soul that kind of had a life of criminal activity and stuff while they were alive, and those things don't change unless they've crossed over. And those souls a lot of times will try to dominate the souls, like the innocent woman in your house, or right. Somebody like that that's wandering. And that's not a good place for them to be either, to have be bullied for that matter.
Lynn, I have a couple of questions for you, if you don't mind. How come for some family members, they get these sightings of their loved ones, whether it's mom, dad, brother, sister, aunt, uncle, grandpa, grandma, and for others, they get nothing? Nothing. Why does that happen? You mean
at the time? Are you referencing to at the time of death?
Visitations in general.
You know what? I think that it's because some people are more open to it, and again, it's on an emotional level in the sense that some people can be approached and be okay with being approached, but a lot of times people, they flip out. They're like, oh my God, like if they sit down and they ask to have a feather move and they come back and the feather's moved. Oh my God, it moved. So I'm not really sure. I think that everyone has the ability to do it. I think that the way that we are raised and whether we're supported with that or whether we're told, no, it's not, or it's nothing there, has a lot to do with it as well. And even our own personal view of things creates it, because really, I mean, how many times and I'm sure a lot of people again that are here listening to this, have you seen a glimpse of something in your peripheral vision? The peripheral vision glimpses are very basic, the very, very first part of interdimensional viewing, and they are very basic, where you might see something in your peripheral vision like as solid as if someone is standing right next to you, but then when you turn, there's nothing there, and you're like, oh, I thought I saw somebody standing there. That acknowledging that opens up the world where a lot more of that will start happening more frequently. But it's where your mind is at, that whether you're ready to see those gruesome people standing around your friend on their cigarette break, you may not be able to handle. You might wet your pants and have to run in the other direction. And having their presence being there, those types of souls, they're kind of draining. Whereas on the other side, where the beautiful angels and those that have crossed over come in, because their energy is so intense, if you're having sadness, it's going to bottom you out. If you're angry, it's going to exacerbate and explode. So they kind of wait until you get into more of a common ground, and they're more apt to approach people in their sleep that are outwardly visual or having the ability to hear, but they will communicate with you in your sleep. And sometimes before you go to bed at night, you can ask, come and see me. And they will. And sometimes you'll be allowed to remember it and sometimes you won't. But once you start to acknowledge what you're seeing in your peripheral vision, it's going to start happening more often.
That's interesting. That's interesting, because I know there's a lot of people who would love to see their loved ones once again, even on the other side, even for a brief fleeting second, just to know that they have that, and they don't get that opportunity. And I feel bad for that. Like, I lost my 29-year-old nephew back in 2018, and I still can't believe it's 3 years ago already, and I'm still quite heartbroken over that. And I remember dimes. I never believed in that whole people finding pennies or nickels or dimes or quarters. Never believed in that, even after doing this show and hearing dozens of experiences like that. And all of a sudden, dimes started appearing. I'm a guy where, Lynn, if you knew me, I hate carrying change in my pocket. Hate it. I hate the sound of change. I hate the feeling of change in my pockets. And one day I cleaned out my pockets. I knew I had nothing in there. Took my wallet out, took my keys out, everything out. I take my pants off. I go to hang them back up. All of a sudden I hear this cling on the floor. Look down, and there's a dime that had fallen out of my pocket.
Yes, he was there.
Yeah.
That's his calling card for you.
Drove me nuts.
He probably knows that.
and then probably the coolest part was this year. He gives me these little signals every now and again. Mm-hmm. But the coolest part this year was it was the anniversary of his death, and I was getting up for work, and I had a good cry in the shower because look, I'm human. I will get emotional every now and again. All right, but here I am, and I am walking to my car, feeling a little gloomy, and right on my pathway to my area where my cars are parked on my driveway, there is a beautiful white feather right at the end of the walkway. Mm-hmm. I've never seen a white feather around here.
Mm-hmm.
Never
yes,
did.
They do. They do. They leave things, and I bet you're going to even now that you've acknowledged it outwardly, and he can hear you talking about it. You're probably going to find a lot more white feathers and dimes. I guarantee it. They like the acknowledgement, and they can hear you. Although when they're on the other side, and even after whether they crossed over or not, they kind of communicate through mind to mind. I'm tongue-tied at the moment, so I'm not going to try to say telepathy. There we go. Whereas the souls that have not crossed over, they're still more orally based, even though you can kind of hear their thoughts, but they're trying to move their mouth with those sorts of things. But I believe that that's his way of communicating with you, and I'm positive that you will start finding more of those things. With that being said. Absolutely.
Well, so what other signs, as we got about 90 seconds here, what other signs can people look for on their own?
I'm sorry. Like, for instance, you can ask them for help with something. Like, let's just say, for instance, you've misplaced your keys or you can't find your shoes or something. You can ask them to help you find them. And ironically, they will have ways to lead you to them. They'll say, oh, well, all of a sudden you have this urge to go to the refrigerator because you're thirsty and you want to drink a water, and you pick up your thing and there's your keys. You must have sat them in the refrigerator when you put something away without thinking. Or they can lead you to, oh, well, gee, we need something out of the hall closet. And all of a sudden, oh, well, there's my shoes. Those are the shoes that I needed. So they have ways to lead you. You can ask them to help you with things, but not like lotto numbers. They don't do that. But like finding things, and you can start trying some of that, or you can even ask them to leave you like a message. Like sometimes they can turn pictures around or lay something down, but it has to be lightweight. You can leave something out for them to move. You can ask them to leave things for you. Sometimes you can smell them. If somebody didn't wear cologne, but maybe they were a cigar or pipe smoker, you might smell the smell of your, whatever scent it was that you maybe liked about the pipe or the cigar, because some of them do smell, nice, like vanilla and things like that. But just start communicating with them, and things that you find that are consistent, you can make it your thing with them, and they will do more of it.
Wonderful. Lynn, I'm going to get you to hold on right there because we are going to go to break here at the top of the hour. Lynn Monet is talking ghosts, spirits, death. We're going to get into the darker side here when we return for hour number 2. What about the demons, the spooky ones, poltergeist activity? Let's rock and roll with Lynn Monet, lynnmonet.com, when we return here on the mighty SOR. All right, Lynn, I'll be right back, okay?
Okay, great. I'm going to get a drink of water.
Sure. Go. We got you, Lynn Monet.
Yep, I'm back.
We got you.
Yes, you do.
Uh-huh.
Just getting my little earbuds here.
Nice. All right, we got just a little bit of time here.
Okay.
Let's see here. All right, we got about 2 minutes here. 2 minutes.
Okay.
Trying to figure... right, 1 minute. This is so much fun. And thank you so much to Cat Chaser, Hector in Mexico, Lynn Soes, and Sally Vandevoort, their Dutch princess, for the amazing super chats tonight. Really do appreciate everything that you guys do. Thank you to all the veterans who are in there in the chat room, hanging on out with us. We appreciate you. And here we go with hour number 2.
You're listening to Spaced Out Radio with Dave Scott. Follow Dave on Twitter at Spaced Out Radio and on Facebook, Spaced Out Radio Show.
Hour number 2 of Spaced Out Radio is now underway. My name is Dave Scott. Thank you so much for taking the time to join us. We really do appreciate earning your listening ears wherever you are on this beautiful planet we call Earth. Thank you to everyone listening in on our terrestrial affiliates around North America, digitally on TalkStream Live, Revolution Radio, and KPNL. All of our archives are free by going to youtube.com/Spaced Out Radio. Do me the favor, hit that subscribe button. The Desert Clam has set the password for tonight in the SOR Space Travelers Club. Gelation. Gelation is your password. Use it wisely, space travelers, as the Clam sets a password each and every night right here on Spaced Out Radio. Our website is spacedoutradio.com, where we have a plethora of features for you, including rocking out to Bumblefoot and reading up on Captain Shirk's SOR Newswire. Follow us on Twitter at Spaced Out Radio and on Instagram, Spaced Out Radio Show. We continue on tonight with Lynn Monet. You can get any of her books at lynnmonet.com. She is the author, proud author of the Omnipresent series, talking about life, death, the darker side of the paranormal. A lot of people, Lynn, as we bring you on back here, will say that they hear things, see things that really don't make them very comfortable. Dark entities, poltergeist activity. Some call it demonic. What is going on in the afterworld with the dark side people are encountering?
Actually, the dark side that we see is more so on this earth. I don't know how to explain this. Let's see. When they cross over in that third dimension, there are a lot of things that are traveling through their, not third dimension, I'm sorry, fourth dimension. There are a lot of things that are traveling through there. Aliens travel through there. There are a lot of things that use the ley lines that kind of filter through there energetically. Just lost my train of thought. I'm sorry. I was thinking about a question that Dr. Smith asked again, just really quick, about marriage and things like that. No, they don't get married. They do pair up and there is sex, but it's not as we know it. So anyway, back to the other thing. There are demons. There are different levels of demons. As there's a hierarchy of angels, there's a sub-hierarchy, for lack of a better word, of demons. And as they go farther down, the more types of physical things the demon can do. There are like level 4 demons going down that can actually leave claw marks, bite marks, bruises. They can pull your hair. Then if you come up a little bit closer to the earth level, there are more of a gargoyle looking entity, which parallels the cherubim on the other side. And they're more of tricksters that can leave imprint thoughts and things like that with that. But what I would like to say is something that I found that is interesting, and I hope that the medical society will start to really check into this more. When I went through my nursing rotation, I had to go through a section for the psychology part of it, and I had to go into mental facilities and be assigned patients in those mental facilities. And there was one in particular that I went in, and there was a young woman, about 20 years old. There was a group of 8 nurses, first of all, that we went in with our teacher. And we entered into the area that was the intake area. And this girl had come in, and she looked at me and she said, "You can help me. I know you can." And she pointed at me. And of course I was kind of embarrassed because she was pointing at me. So I'm kind of looking over my shoulder, hoping that she's pointing at someone else. And the teacher immediately intervened, and she said, "Don't make eye contact," and ushered us into a different room. But I was able to, with one other nurse, be assigned to come back into the area that was the intake area. And I actually had to sign papers that if I got hit or harmed in any way from any of those people being brought in, that I couldn't hold the hospital responsible, because a lot of the people that were coming through hadn't quite been balanced out yet with medication and things like that. So this girl was not assigned to me, but I was assigned to another client, and they had these picnic tables that were bolted to the floor that of course the student nurses could sit on, and the clients could come and sit on. And so I was sitting down doing my charting with the other nurse, and the young girl that I had seen originally that morning had come over, and she sat down with us, and she started telling us the story about how she had been molested by her pastor from like age 7 to 11. And then her mother remarried, and her stepfather started to molest her from like 12 to 16, which was when she ran away from home. And then she got involved in some kind of Satan worship, and she stated at that time that she knew that that was the wrong thing to do. And I'm sitting here and I'm watching this woman. She's very, very heavily sedated, so she's speaking very slowly. And she's got these scratch marks all over her. I mean, she had scratch marks in her ear. They were like half out of her nose. They were on her back and in areas that really were not physically possible for her to reach. And in my first book, Omnipresent, there was I had a friend of mine that was standing next to me in the kitchen of that house that was clawed to the point of bleeding on her back and stomach. And these claw marks that were on this young woman were identical to that type of claw mark. It's like a single claw mark. It looks like a cat scratch. And, but she had them everywhere. And I'm like, man, these look just like the ones that my friend had on her in my kitchen of that house. And she started talking about how she heard all of these voices, that she heard like 25 different voices. One of them, she said, was a demon that had a long nail that would scratch her inside of her vagina. I mean, she had scratches everywhere. And she had on like a tank top with little thin spaghetti straps, so I could actually see where there were like areas between her shoulder blades where there was like the claw mark. And again, there was no way she could have really reached that herself and left a claw mark that long. But they were accusing her of doing it to herself, claiming that she had schizophrenia. So she was called away. She had asked, she said, "Well, can you pray over me?" One of the nurses last night came in and prayed over me, and it seemed to help. And I, at the time, was going through some personal things. My mother was getting ready to pass away at that time. And so I had a lot of personal things going on. And I didn't feel personally that would be enough for this woman. And I, of course, didn't want them to attach to me and go home with me. So, you have to be in a certain frame of mind and a certain, you have to be clear in your mind in order to remove something like that. But anyway, she was then called away for her time with her psychiatrist. And as she got up and started walking away from the picnic table, as she got away from me, I could see it looked like she had clustered grapes or like misshapen potatoes in a clear see-through bag, one over each shoulder. And a lot of times, some of these lost souls and things, the way that they appear, they're inverted. So the heads, the eyes will be on the bottom, the mouth will be on the top, but you can distinctly see the mouth and the eyes, sometimes a nose, but most of them, like I said, were upside down. And when I'm watching her walk away, I'm like, oh my God, that poor woman, she really is hearing 25 different voices. She's got attachments on her over each shoulder on her back. So she went to her appointment with the psychiatrist, and she came back, and I went to her room. I knocked on the door, and she said I could come in. And I said to her, I said, listen, when you leave here, you need to go and find somebody that can remove attachments. You've got demonic attachments on your back. And at that time, I had an overwhelming feeling just to reach for it was like a vine finger thing that they were attached and kind of sunk in with her shoulder that I could see kind of etherically. And so I grabbed them and just kind of pinched them at the top and pulled them away. And they weren't embedded into her back. They were kind of clinging to each other. And I was surprised that they came off so easily. But of course, they started falling off and kind of rolling off on the floor. I was trying to stomp some of them into the ground. And I noticed, too, that she had some near her bed where she'd been sleeping, and I had concerns that they would reattach. So I told her, I said, listen, I've taken some of them off of you. Did not get them all, but when you get out of here, you need to go and find someone that can help you get the rest of those attachments off, because I think what you're hearing is them talking to you. So about a year passes. I'm in Walmart, see these two girls. They're at the end of the aisle, and they keep looking at me, and then they're whispering and talking, and then they're looking at me. I'm thinking, oh, maybe they've read one of my books, or maybe my bra strap, or maybe I got toilet paper on my shoe, So I look down, and all of a sudden I hear her say to the other girl, she says, I know it's her. I'm going to go say something. So she walks up to me, and she said, Lynn, she said, hi, do you remember me? And I said, I looked at her, and she was kind of familiar, but I didn't fully recognize her because she looked so different. She looked fantastic. And she said, you're Lynn. She said, you were the nurse that was in the facility that I was in, and you came to me and you told me about the attachments that I had on me. And I looked at her and I said, oh my God. I mean, she had her hair done. She was slender. I mean, she was beautiful. And she said, I did exactly what you said. And she said, I am no longer on my schizophrenic medication. The doctor now is maintaining me on a low dose of anti-anxiety medication. But just to back up a little bit with that, once I saw those on her, I started what I call look, which is the interdimensional viewing where I can see some things. I started walking through the facility and picking out people that I recognized that also had attachments. And in the areas that I was allowed into, I would say 30% at least of the people in there that were in there being treated. And ironically, the diagnosis on all of those people that I saw with attachments was schizophrenia. And I'm like, I bet that one's got schizophrenia. Well, how do you know? And I'm thinking, well, because they have an attachment. Well, that's right. That's my patient. It does. Because we would sit and we would group together as students and kind of talk about our day sort of thing and what we had to deal with. And so I would see where one of the clients was with one of the other nurses, one of the other nursing students with an attachment. And I'm like, that guy's got an attachment. I'm thinking, I bet he's got schizophrenia. And sure enough, when we would sit down to do our meeting together, and I said, well, does he have schizophrenia? Yes. How did you know? So what I have seen is that a lot of these people that are being treated for very serious medical issues with lots of heavy medication are because they have attachments on them that other people, of course, can't see. And the thing about it, the thing about the differences is, yes, there are some people that have mental illnesses where their dopamine levels are off, or their serotonin levels are off, or they have this issue because they're going off of their drugs and they're going through hallucinations and things and seeing pink elephants on the wall. These people are not seeing that. They're hearing voices talking to them, and they're voices that are very negative and telling them to do awful things and things like that. But their voices, they're not seeing these pink elephants. And I think that if the medical society could kind of enter into the realm of the unknown a little bit more, as far as with schizophrenia, and maybe helping people to learn to cope with them in a different way, not using medication, which I think is possible, that they might have a lot less patients in those facilities. So I thought that was interesting at that time. Let's see.
Lynn has a question for you. She is asking, do you have any stories about those couples who have been married for decades and one dies and then the other follows quite quickly?
Yes, I do. I've seen that happen, and they still say when they present again. Like, for instance, if you have a person that passes away after those two passed away, when they come to help that person cross over, they will come together as a couple. You'll see the two of them standing side by side as a couple. As I said, it's not really marriage on the other side, the way that we know it, where you stand in front of somebody and they pronounce you man and wife with papers. You can choose to stay coupled. There have been many, many lifetimes. So there might be somebody that you've been married to in this lifetime that you're glad that you're not going to be coupled with on the other side. Your true love may be on the other side, and you don't realize it. But it's all about choice. But I have seen and probably 4 or 5 different occasions where one will pass. And the thing that's kind of different about it is a lot of times it's the one that passes is the caretaker. And usually they expect the person that they're taking care of to go first. But it happens the other way around. And also I've seen it on 2 different occasions where there were just a couple that were very, very much in love. And it was both the husbands that went first and the wives. It was like they were brokenhearted. They just couldn't get over being without that person. And they ended up, one followed 10 days later. Another one, it was about 6 months later to cross over. And I remember distinctly the one that was 6 months later, and she was talking to him in the room before she crossed within about 3 days. And she even had told me, because I was going to be off that next day, and she said to me, she says, "I'm going home tomorrow." And I said, "Well, what do you mean you're going home tomorrow?" She said, "My husband's coming to get me, and I'm going home tomorrow." And I knew what she meant, and I just said to her, I said, "Well, I want to thank you for allowing me to be part of your healthcare team. And, I'm happy for you that your husband's coming and you get your opportunity to be with him again." And lo and behold, she passed away the next day at 10:30 in the evening. So she knew that he was coming to get her. I've had patients where their parents are coming to get them, or where, somebody is coming to get them that, and most people that are passing, when they pass by natural means and not something sudden, they know when their time is coming. I'm going to go. I'm leaving tomorrow. Tomorrow's my day. So, and they will talk about the people that are coming in the room that they're visiting with that do help them cross over. So I hope that answered your question.
Yeah, I think we've all known a couple like that just can't even bear the thought of being apart. Like my parents' best friends, they were married for 51 years or somewhere around that. And the husband was first diagnosed with cancer. A few months later, the wife was. A year later, the wife passes away. 3 months later, he passes away. Mm-hmm. And then you hear of all these heartbroken stories that they just can't live without each other. Where I get confused, if there is something to this, Lynn, and I'm not saying there isn't, because I actually do believe there is, but how come in some circumstances we see, I'll use my grandparents as example on my mother's side, and my grandmother passed away in 1988. My grandfather didn't die until 1996, and yet they were married for 60 years. So how come in some families, or we see a wife who, they've been married for 50 years, the wife passes away, say in 2002, and the husband is still living at this time?
Mm-hmm. I've seen that too. Sometimes there's still some purpose that needs to be fulfilled and they voluntarily, subconsciously, they're voluntarily staying to complete that. And also they have that interconnection with the loved one that's already crossed over. And not only that, there's sometimes is a dynamic on the other side where they may be connected here together in this lifetime, but they may not be as connected on the other side, so to speak. Sometimes they are, sometimes they're not, depending. And there's different dynamics that go along with that. Some people, they're happily married. Some people are not. Some people, even though they're together a long time, there might be some issues where, one was happy and one wasn't, or whatever. But with that being said, usually it's because there's a reason for them to stay here for a little bit longer. There's some other purpose that they agreed to help maybe a family member that's still here work through, or something like that has them remain.
Okay. Well, that would make sense, and I would totally understand with that. And, the one thing I think we also see, too, with a lot of people in death is that, Steve Jobs, for instance, when he passed away, his last words were very strange. Oh, wow. Wow. Oh, wow.
Yeah.
What would somebody be seeing at that point?
Oh, my gosh. A couple of things. There are a lot of people that have had near-death experiences. My father was actually one where he went into the tunnel with the dark tunnel with the glistening light, and the warmth came around him. A lot of times when people experience that, it's because they're having the option to return. They're not going all the way over. But when they do go all the way over, when that veil opened to look in, it's not just what you're seeing. It's the love and the feeling that's coming at you and encompassing you and nurturing you. And then it seems like the explosion of everything is 1,000 times more beautiful. Like I made mention, some of the flowers, they're so unusual, and they're such unique colors of things that we don't even have here. And the light emits from within itself. The grass is perfect. They do have grassy areas. They have fields. They have mountains. They have waterfalls. The buildings are very, very unique. The roof, the way that they are when you're coming up over them, you can actually see into the buildings themselves as if there is no roof. It's almost like it's see-through. But yet all of the buildings are like almost like an alabaster with the seams on. They're not seamed. They're like one whole piece, if that makes sense. But they have a luminescence about them. And you can see when someone is inside, you can see that there's movement, but they still have the privacy of not being seen through a window unless they want to be. But it's just the colors and the connection with the plants and the things, as if you become one. When you admire a flower there, and my mother was telling me this too from the other side, when you look into a flower, it engulfs you. You become one with it. You can feel the pulsing of the life of that flower, that plant coming through it, as if you're one. And the colors and the lights that emit from the centers, even in the areas where normally like a bee here would pollinate, they don't have to pollinate there. So instead of having like the dust on the little tentacle things that come up from the flowers, they emit light like little light bulbs. So that light is there. Everything has life to it. You can lean against the trees and feel the pulsating coming through there. When my mom passed away, there was this beautiful, almost willow-looking tree in the background.
Lynn, let's hold on that thought right there, okay? Because unfortunately, we've crept up to a break here. Once again, LynnMonet.com. You'll find all of Lynn's books about her Omnipresent series right there. Spaced Out Radio continues with Lynn coming up right after this. All right, Lynn, we're clear.
Okay. Am I allowed to talk now, or are we?
Oh, yeah, you were all good.
Okay, good. I just wanted to make clear to people too that with the books being sold from my website, that there is a pre-sale and a release date. So if you go to purchase something, they'll be coming out with the release date. And also, there are a lot of scammers out there right now. I've had people set up Venmo accounts in my name. I've had them set up Cash App. I've had them put LinkedIn accounts and put somebody else's picture in there. Somebody in New Zealand stole it, and she's some lady with green hair, and another lady. These poor people, they've grabbed the pictures off the internet, these scammers. So I just want to say that if the book is purchased through my website, I can guarantee that you're going to get it, but I can't be responsible for a book if you've chosen to purchase it from someone else, because it might be somebody that's just taking your money. I've had people come forward and say, hey, I never got my book. And I'm like, I'm sending them out for free just to make sure that I stay creditable. And they're not saying, oh, well, Lynn Monet doesn't send you the books. But there were people that they purchased the book through who took their money and ran. So with that being said, please do order them through me so I can make sure that you get your book.
Awesome. Yes, go through the website, everyone. That's the big one. That's the big one. Go through the website. Yeah. And Chad has put up the website once again, lynnmonet.com. So check that on out.
Thank you, Chad.
Well, everyone wants to be a little bit of Chad Smith, and, that's the way we want to do things. If you can Chad Smith it out a little bit, it just makes life a little bit easier.
That's great.
You have no idea what we're talking about, and that's cool.
Okay, good. Yes, that's what I'm saying, that's great. Let's see here. And I wanted to, so that people aren't disappointed, The Colors of Heaven is the book about the death, dying, and afterlife part. The other book is more about what happens with the people that don't cross over. The first book, Omnipresent, is about a haunted house that I bought 13 years ago that was haunted so badly that I was never able to move into the house. And then the Omnipresent, What Happened Next, kind of picks up where that last, actually the very first chapter in the book is called The Last Chapter First. So it picks up where we left off from there and goes into more about different peoples and hauntings and things like that with a self-help section. I always like to put a self-help section in the back, because when you're in that kind of a situation, it is so desperate that you can have all kinds of people take advantage of you financially, and you're willing to pay it because you don't want to, you want your house back. So I'm hoping that with these do-it-yourself things that you can trust yourself, to do it the right way and things like that. And you don't have to count on somebody else coming in your house and taking your money and riling up your ghosts and leaving you with angry ghosts, because a lot of times that happens when spiritual groups come in. If they don't really know what they're doing, or your church comes in for that matter, I'm sorry, no offense to the churches, but man, it makes it worse. And this way you have some defenses for yourself.
Very cool. Very cool. All right. Excuse me. Don't forget, good way to support this show nightly is to do a little shopping at our SOR store. Yep, we got some great swag there for you if you want to check it on out. And, yes, I'm in the process of getting some stuff here, too. I just got to wait for Ben to tell me how to get in, because I get to go through the back door. It's one of those things. So that's what we're waiting for, is for Ben to come on in and make things happen. We've got about 45 seconds here, Lynn.
Okay. All righty.
Knucker, what's happening? Remember, guys, if you have questions, put them in capital letters. It's easier for me to read and get them over to Lynn that way. And, yeah. Yes, I am wearing camouflage. You can't see my body today. It's just a floating head. That is right. Thank you to Wreakin' Havoc, Cat Chaser, Hector in Mexico, Lynn Soes, and Sally Vandervoort, the Dutch Princess, for the amazing super chats tonight. Really helps out what we do on a nightly basis here on the Mighty SOR. Thank you to all the vets. Here we go. We pass the halfway point of Spaced Out Radio tonight. My name is Dave Scott. Thank you so much for taking the time to join us. We really do appreciate earning your listening ears. Want to remind you that if you have missed portions of this show or others, check out our free archives by going to youtube.com/Spaced Out Radio. Do me the favor, hit that subscribe button. Our website is spacedoutradio.com, where we have a plethora of features for you, including rocking out to Bumblefoot and reading up on Captain Shirk's SOR Newswire. Follow us on Twitter at Spaced Out Radio and on Instagram, Spaced Out Radio Show. We continue on tonight with Lynn Monet. LynnMonet.com is her website, where you can find all of her books there and get them there. That's the best place to get them, and she'll make sure they get them to you. And we're talking about death, the afterlife. What's going on the other side? Lynn, welcome back.
Thank you so much. As I had mentioned while we were on the break, that there is a self-help section in the back, but I wanted to add a little bit more to that. A lot of times, people... they don't realize what part in their lifetime that what things that they may be doing to kind of draw those things in. As I said, some of these souls that have crossed over, they still have their emotions, they have their addiction. Whoop! Just dropped my little thing here. I'm gonna put it back in. Can you hear me? Okay.
Yeah, we hear you fine. Okay,
good. So what I'm saying is a lot of times before you go in to do a clearing on your house, a lot of times there's some things that a person personally needs to clear up. So if there's anything, little hidden things going on, a little white powder up your nose every once in a while, or maybe you're making visits that you shouldn't over to the neighbor's house when their spouse is gone or something, there are things that do need to be cleaned up because those sorts of behavior draw the souls in because, like, for instance, in the case of, say, addiction, for that matter, they are drawn to the negative energy that the rippling effect of the drug addiction has on the effects of the family and the sorrow that it causes, the money loss, the fighting, the arguing, all of those sorts of things like that. Also, in the back of Omnipresent, it tells how to determine whether you have ghosts or not. And it tells how that you can use your 35 millimeter camera and walk through a house and how to do it and where to take the pictures and how to identify them. The second book talks about some things that you can do to actually clear your house. But I've had people that have come back, where, they were gone for a week and then they came back. And it's like certain behaviors that they were doing that they kind of fixed were kind of coming back. So you need to really clean up your stuff first, as much as you can, or be in the process of cleaning up your stuff before you go to clear. I've actually had I had somebody recently contact me. When I help to clear houses, I do not charge for my services. However, if I have to go across the country, I do want to be reimbursed for any personal money that I put out of my own expense. So sometimes these rituals can take hours depending on the level of activity in the house, if it's a lost soul versus like a demonic entity type thing, because there are different rituals that you would have to do in order to remove those. I'm not in there to take pictures. I'm not interested in having pictures to post. I want to help people live lives fully. But recently I had someone contact me, and you can contact me through my email. I do answer my own email still at this point, and I will help you in any way that I can, even from a distance. But what people don't realize about this sort of work is that these entities, they can go through your computers, they can be attached to your emails. So when when I get sent emails of people saying, please, please, please help me, a lot of times I get attacked while I'm looking at their emails. I can feel the hot lashes against my legs. I can feel, I can hear something like tapping on the mirror in my house or things like that. But the main thing is if you have a problem in your house, they feed off of any kind of negative emotion, whether it's sadness or anger or any of those things. And that's their chocolate. And the more of it that you have going on in your house, the more they're going to hang out because they're getting their fix. When you stay neutral, they either stay as they are, and in my case, it's kind of funny. You'll never see a demon run faster than if you send them love. They have, and I know this sounds weird. I don't mean in the sense of loving and embracing them, but talk about seeing them run like there's a stench in the room, and it's only a temporary thing because they will come back for this part. But I was trying to help this gentleman that was in a wheelchair. He had a terrible infestation. He sent me the pictures. He sent me video and audio tape. You could hear them talking and mumbling in the background, saying terrible things to this man. And this man was helpless. So my heart really went out to him, but I could feel them coming into my realm and, flicking my cabinets and things, and it was consistent. So I actually said out loud, I stood up and I said, oh, here you are. I'm so glad that you're here. I want to teach you a lesson about love. Now we're going to sit down and I'm going to teach you how to feel the emotion of love, because God loves you and Jesus loves you and Buddha loves you and I love you. So I'm going to teach you about love. Let's all sit down. And the room cleared. But the next day when I had sent another email to the guy, of course, they kind of came back and I did that again and they cleared. So it's only a temporary thing in that moment. And it's not, you can't use, like if you're clearing the house, you don't really want to talk about them ahead of time. You don't crack jokes while you're doing it because they will target you. Any kind of acknowledgement, it's better just to go in quiet, have your game plan laid out of who's doing what, so you can make sure that everything is covered, because it is detailed and it does take a while. It's recommended to do it not by yourself, but with another person there, even if they're not actively helping you, just to be present before you go in and you do these things. But you can't show any emotion. They cannot read your mind. They go by your actions and what they see you doing and what they hear you talking about. So it's very, very important that you fake it until you make it, even if you're wetting your pants. They don't know that if you're not acting as if you're that frightened, and you can start humming Amazing Grace. You can say the Lord's Prayer out into the room. They have Run Demon Run music on your phone that you can Google, that you can play while you're doing the house to kind of hold them at bay and to weaken them. Because the thing to stand up and to do what I did actually kind of made them shrivel, because they were actually kind of in shock that I saw one fly off down the hallway that particular day while the other one was trying to puff itself up when I was saying those things to them, because they were shocked that a person was actually looking at them and saying, look, they could tell I wasn't afraid of them. They were waiting for that shock value for me to scream and start running off so that they could really, really get puffed up. And when, as they get that fix off of you, then they're able to do more physical things like clawing, biting, pulling your hair, throwing things, all sorts of things that they can do that then make you even more scared. So it's a vicious cycle of that fear that you're feeding them. So it's very, very important that you don't show it. Even if you argue, do not show it. Don't talk about them in your home. Go outside, go into your car, drive down the road if you need to talk to somebody about it. Every little thing like that, any acknowledgement or anything like that, they really, really like. And as far as even like with children, a lot of times people make the mistake of saying to their children when they come to them, oh, there's nothing there. Or it's your aunt coming to watch over you. Well, if it was their aunt or uncle coming to watch over them, it wouldn't be terrifying them. So when people that have crossed over, they can come back and forth, but it's very different than it is when you have a lost soul in your house with that negative energy pull that they do that robs you of your sleep, or they shake your bed in the middle of the night, or they pull your covers off and those sorts of things. The visits from the ones that have crossed over are always very warm and pleasant. They're not threatening. They're not scary. And a lot of times they just enter in through your dreams, so they're not disturbing you. So in the case of children, if it's something that's frightening them, it's not somebody that crossed over. It's something else, even if it presents. So to say to them, there's nothing there, they can clearly see it. A lot, especially children at certain ages, they don't have those filters in yet. They kind of get more into place psychologically around 5 and 6 years old. Ironically, not ironically, but on the flip side, when people get older, that filter effaces, and that's what helps them to be able to see into the other side when their loved ones start coming over. So that filter kind of lifts. But with children, instead of saying that there's nothing there, tell it to go away. Tell it that it's not welcome there, to go away. And, and give them something to empower themselves with. The children, because they don't have those filters, they are able to see spirits a lot of times. We can't. Your dogs can. Your cats can also. Sometimes you might see your dog or cat sitting watching something, and you're like, what are they looking at? Because you can't see anything. There's nothing there, but they're acting like something's standing right in front of them, talking to them. So it is important not to, just because you can't see it, not to believe that it's there. And if your child comes to you with the complaint of something more than once and it's the same thing, please, believe them and give them, like I said, some tools. And the thing that's important too is to ask the child, is it something that is telling you to do something that you're not supposed to? Because then you've got a demon in the house that's posing as a child or that's posing as something else. So it's important to determine that also. And empower your kids.
We got a question coming from Fidgety Aura, who is asking, Lynn, can you address trying to cross a spirit who really is crossed, but just likes to visit?
Okay, so to address trying to cross a spirit, what do you mean, like helping them cross back over?
Yeah.
The thing is about spirits is they still have freedom of choice and they can choose to stay here if they want to. I would tell them sometimes they've been here so long they forget that they're dead. So I would tell the spirit that they have died and that their family is waiting for them on the other side, and that a lot of whatever their beliefs are that held them here to begin with, that if they love God or whatever it is that they believe in to go up in that direction, that just to state that and to go ahead and to look up. There's a cord line that kind of, it's like a cord. It's like a golden cord that kind of reaches. If they look up, it kind of comes to them, and then it just kind of pulls them upward. They just go like poof. If you could actually see one do that. I know that they might really like to visit, but I'm sure you may find that your energy is waning after they leave because they are unintentionally feeding off of it. In the case of a lost soul, the demons do it on purpose. But it's important to tell them that they need to cross over and to give them the option. Sometimes they just don't know how. So if you tell them to look up and to look for the golden cord, they can engage and go if they choose to. And if you're not comfortable with the visits, then tell them that they need to stop coming, that they need to go somewhere else. So I hope that answered your question.
Absolutely. All right, let's get to another question here, because we do have a number of them coming up here from our audience here. And no, it's not about breakfast for dinner. That's definitely not it for Nucker. Simon is asking, how do you hear demons? How do you deal with them?
Oh my gosh. I have the ability to see. A lot of times people, there are some people that are able to hear and not see. There are some people that are feelers. I can actually see them. And it's more of a feeling thing for me. So it's not necessarily them talking, but their presence. I've actually seen in the house that I had bought, there was a hell dog, which was clawing my friends. It was clawing my children. It was leaving bite marks on my son's legs. It was bruising people. They pulled my hair. It physically would attack people. So, and then there was this gargoyle looking thing that was there also that would leave imprints. And it's like, I remember specifically being in a room one day, and I was packing boxes because I was putting my stuff back in to leave. And I sensed that one gargoyle thing was at the door, and I knew it was going to do something. So I was prepared. And I felt all of a sudden the feeling of a snake whirling in my pocket and then slithering down the outside of my leg. Well, I knew that there was no snake, and I knew that this imprint was something that it was doing. So it wasn't that I heard him, I sensed him, and I felt. But there are some people that can hear them. There was one, for instance, in that house where that hell dog, I had multiple denominations of religion come into the house, everybody professing that they could get it out, but they just ended up upsetting them more, and they were just coming out and attacking more after they recuperated from whatever type of clearing that was done, except for there was this one lady that came, and she was Indian, and she did the rituals different. And I remember standing in the living room seeing it was like a wolf type demon came to the top of the stairs, and he had himself all puffed up. He tried to get himself as big as he could. And she started talking to him, and he would respond back in this gurgling electric sound to her, and it would go back and forth. And the thing was, is she brought a friend with her that was standing next to me, and when the beast came to the top of the stairs, the person next to me stepped back and said, "Whoa!" And I'm like, "Can you see that?" And he's like, "Yeah, I can see that." And the lady spoke up too; she could see it too. So all three of us were seeing the same thing, but she was able to communicate with it, and it actually had told her that it was tunneling, and where the house was built, I think the house was built on a ley line or broke into some tunneling that it was doing. They were on their way to something else, and because of the house being built there, that it kind of caved in their path. And so she was going to reopen the path and send them on their way. But after all of that was done, the wolf demon was still in the house. And I remember the very, very last day that I was there, I was doing one more walk through the house, checking the dishwasher, checking cabinets to make sure that nothing was left in anything, so that I had all of my stuff to leave. And I went into the garage, and I could see the rippling effect. And when I turned out of my peripheral vision, I could see that thing standing there. And I just said to it, I said, "Look, I'm out. I'm leaving. You can have this house. I'm gone." And I started to turn around, and I could feel it putting its nail into the crease of my elbow as I turned. And something just screamed in my head, "Do not look back. Leave. Go forward, and do not look back." So I don't know if I had looked back, if it was going to try to possess me or what it was going to do, but I went with the heavenly voice that was coming in my head, and I walked out of the room, and I was gone. So is that what you meant?
Yeah, I believe so.
Okay.
I believe so. We've got 5 minutes here before we got to go to break at the top of the hour. Nicholas is asking, Lynn, have you come into contact with non-physical beings that were not angels?
Yes, I have. As a matter of fact, I've actually seen some aliens. I had a patient that was in a room, and I had asked at one point, I was on a show with Linda Moulton Howe. I had asked, I said, are there aliens living amongst us? Because I had this lady that was a patient that I suspected was different, because there were 5 different occasions that I went into this woman's room, and the room was kind of dusk. It was around 10 o'clock at night. It seemed dusk because of the light coming in from the hallway. And I went down to her room to give her pain medication, and it did not happen all of the time, but it happened these 5 different times, and I went down to her room, and I could see on the other side, she was laying on her side facing the door when I walked in. I could see these beings, and it looked like they were pulling things out of her and reconnecting it, kind of like an old-fashioned phone board, one of those operator things where they would pull out, one probe thing and stick it into another hole kind of thing, is the actions that they were doing. They were all similar height and they looked identical. So, except for one time that I went into the room, there was one that was taller than the rest. And there was usually the least amount that was in there at one time was 4. One time I went in the room and there was probably 10. And the night that there was 10, that it was when one taller one was there too. I was taking care of the lady. I went in there with a blood pressure cuff that was fresh and brand new. And as soon as I went to put it on her, the battery was dead. So I had to call out into the hallway, and I had them bring me another one. And I went to take her blood pressure again, and the battery went dead. And I'm like, this is ridiculous. So I finally had to take it manually. And while I was in there, one of them actually came and walked right through me. And I remember saying, oh, excuse me, because that was just something automatic if I had bumped somebody or something, and that it walked right through me. So they didn't realize that I could see them working on this woman. The woman had never had children. There was something about her eyes that were much larger than most people. She was always like a wild-eyed rabbit kind of look. And I really, really liked her. She had a great sense of humor. But on her room was the only room I had 24 clients, 24 rooms to take care of. And her room was the only room that I had ever seen anything like that in. And it wasn't that I had just seen it one time. I saw it 5 different times of her having those visits at different times. It wasn't like I was working the weekends, but it wasn't like it was every single weekend. Sometimes a couple of months would pass, and then I'd walk in on it, and it was the same thing. And it was like they were working from behind a veil that they were kind of hiding behind, which, we're finding now that they're doing that in the sky and everything, that they're like camouflaging themselves. And I think that they felt that they were camouflaging and that I wouldn't be able to see them, but I was able to see them. So in answer to your question, yes, I have seen things that were non-physical beings.
90 seconds. Another question from Toe Tag. Can a person be trained to see, hear, or feel entities?
I believe that we are all born capable of doing that. So yes, I do. Through meditation, through quieting your mind, through connecting with whatever your higher source is, can help you to start to see, hear, and feel spirit entities. Sometimes what happens is those people that are wanting that so badly, they're trying so hard that they're missing things. So it's really, really important for you to go into a state of quietness where you can meditate and have that come to you. Once it starts in small spurts. And once you acknowledge it and realize for sure that that's what it is, it'll start coming in more so. However, usually you'll have one gift that is more so than others. Like, for instance, I can see and feel. My daughter can hear and feel. So sometimes you don't have all of the gifts at one time. You might be stronger in one area than another. But you can make some of those other areas a little bit stronger too.
Very cool. And on that note, I'm going to get you to hold on right there, Lynn, because we do have to go to break here at the top of the hour. 2 hours down, 1 hour to go. Heading into hour 3, we have Lynn Monet for the next 30 minutes. And then Dave 101, the latest edition. I got triggered yesterday.
What happened?
And I am bothered by it. I will tell you all about it on the Dave 101. But we have Spaced Out Radio continuing with hour number 3 next on the Mighty SOR. All right, we're clear. What happened yesterday is we do this show called The Angry Ghost Hunter a little bit before our show on the final Wednesday of every month. And one of the guys said the word science.
Uh-oh.
And it triggered me. Totally triggered me. So I've gone off on the UFO world for the past while. It's time for the paranormal to get spanked a little bit.
There you go.
Yeah. So that's what we're going to do. That is what we are going to do. Spank around. Yes. Chad Jacobs, thank you so much for that awesome super chat. Really do appreciate that, man. And Toe Tag, thank you so much for that great super chat. Really do appreciate that. Awesome, guys. Very generous of all of you tonight. Thank you. Yeah, just a reminder, put your questions in capital letters. It's easier for me to read. Yeah, so I had a cool day today, guys. I had a cool day today. I decided that I was going to go get some firewood in the forest. So we drive out to my one area and couldn't find any good firewood. Couldn't. But we're driving slowly on the logging road, and about 25 feet from us in the forest, 30 feet from us in the forest, there is a cow moose, and then just behind her is this giant bull moose. And I'd never seen a bull moose before. Didn't realize they were that big.
Wow.
Oh my goodness, they're huge. And there we heard them. When we came back, couldn't find any firewood. When we came back, that's when we heard them making all sorts of sounds. That was kind of cool. I'd never heard a moose talk before, but heard it. So then we go into another area, go up by one of the lakes, coming back, and right on the side of the road, there's a moose calf and a moose cow. And so we're trying slowly to creep up to them to get pictures, because moose are really skittish, especially with the youngins around. And I look up into the trees. You know, you get that feeling you're being watched. Look up into the trees, and there's another massive bull moose staring down at us, giving me the stink eye. Right? So here I am looking at this. I got some pictures. It didn't turn out well, but I did get some pictures. It was cool though, man. It was very cool. I had never seen 5 moose in my life in the wild, and today I see 5 of them. I'm pretty happy about that. Pretty happy about that today. It's very cool. Hi, Sandra. Hi, Sandra.
Very cool.
Hi, Sandra. Yeah, very cool.
I remember when you posted the bear in the tree.
Yeah, that
was cool too.
That was just outside my yard, 100 feet.
Wow.
Mm-hmm.
He was getting some apples.
I was hoping to see some cats today. I really thought we'd see a cat today, but we didn't. But that's okay. They're tough to see on a good day.
Somebody says, I feel like Dave's hat should read Trojan.
No. Here, I'll turn it around. My gosh.
There you go.
There. Jeez. Yep, that's probably FAP made that comment. That's a FAP type comment. We got just over 1 minute here.
Okay. I can't wait to. Are you going to be posting the UFO thing that your neighbor caught pictures of?
Actually, he's going to come see me tomorrow. So that's kind of cool.
Mm-hmm.
That makes me happy. So I'll be able to get some good stuff out of him. All right, we've got about 40 seconds. Big thank you to Toe Tag, Chad, Jason, Wreakin' Havoc, Cat Chaser, Hector, Lynn Soes, and Sally, the Dutch Princess, for the super chats tonight. Really appreciate it. Much love to all the veterans out there tuning us in tonight. You always have a safe home here. And all the regulars, we're having a great time with you again. So get your horns up, get ready, because here comes Bumblefoot.
Would you like to connect with us? Head to spacedoutradio.com for all your latest show info. Now, back to Dave Scott and SOR.
Third and final hour of Spaced Out Radio is underway tonight. My name is Dave Scott. Thank you so much for taking the time to join us. We really do appreciate earning your listening ears wherever you are on this beautiful planet we call Earth. Want to say hello to everyone listening in on our terrestrial affiliates around North America and digitally on TalkStream Live, Revolution Radio, and KPNL. All of our archives are free. Just go to youtube.com/Spaced Out Radio. Do old Davey the favor, hit that subscribe button. The Desert Clam has set the password for tonight in the SOR Space Travelers Club. Gelation. Gelation is your password. Use it wisely, Space Travelers, as the clam sets the password each and every night right here on Spaced Out Radio. Our website is spacedoutradio.com. We have a plethora of features for you. Check out our new swag, rock out to Bumblefoot, and read up on Captain Shirk's SOR Newswire. Follow us on Twitter at Spaced Out Radio and on Instagram, Spaced Out Radio Show. For the final time tonight, Lynn Monet is here. LynnMonet.com is her website. You can find all of her books right there. She'll make sure that she hand delivers them to your house to make sure that you get them. We love her around here. We're talking ghosts and all sorts of entities all night long. Lynn, welcome back.
Hi, thank you. I see that we have a question here. What is the difference between jinn and demons, elementals, in your opinion? Jinn and demons are similar. They're in the Chinese, Japanese, their demons are referenced more as jinn, and we reference them more as demons. As far as the elementals go, they're similar too, but a lot of them are, like for instance, they come more like with shadows and things like that. The elementals do, and a lot of times the elementals, from what I understand, are sometimes platforms that are created that demons can come in over. And speaking of platforms, a lot of times people don't realize there are platforms that are man-made. They're created by people arguing, by certain things, not just arguing, but like really, really nasty fights, like pre-divorce kind of fights and things like that, or any kind of physical abuse or behavior, somebody stealing, whatever. And they can come in the form of, they sometimes appear like snake-like. They can appear almost like a person silhouette. They can also appear flat with kind of ruffling edges, and they kind of scurry across the floor. And as they get bigger, they are platforms for demonic activity to come in. A lot of times when people need to have clearings and things done on their house, the first thing that somebody will say is to burn sage. And sage, I'm sorry, does not work for demons. It actually aggravates them and makes it worse. Now, to balance energy and to create a space that's more neutral, then the sage works very well for that. It also works very well for cleanup after the fact, after you do the main part of any kind of microdemon metastasis that's left, or pieces of negativity, it clears. And in the case of some of the elementals and the that they create to have demonic activity come in, those things have to be cleared out. So like, for instance, if they don't go away on their own. So like, for instance, if you move into a new house, you would want to clear it, because whatever anger and fights and things that have been left behind creating these shadows, you can add to that, and it can bring them in. But those things can actually be neutralized by the sage, and they can dissipate and disappear. But people that have talked about seeing the shadowy figures or the snake.
Well, you froze up on us. Let's add you back here. All right.
Hello?
Hi there. Now we got you.
Okay, you got me? I'm sorry.
That's okay.
Where did I leave off?
You were just talking about the creatures like snakes and...
Right. And the shadows that are created, and those are all platforms for other things that are more negative to come in, like demonic activity. Those things can be cleaned up with like a sage neutraling thing. But I don't know if you heard the part where I had said that a lot of times people will say, smudge your house.
Yes, we did get that.
Yeah, you did hear that. Okay. But that sort of thing does work. A lot of times people don't realize that when you go into a house that you're purchasing and someone else has lived there before you, if you take a camera in with you and you take pictures of certain areas in the house, like over where a dining room table would be, or like in an area like of a family room, there might be areas that there's heavy bubbling, and that's before you walk through the room. But it's like this heavy bubbling looking of these opaque things are like right over an area where maybe a couch was or a dining room table was at some point. And those are a lot of conversations that have been trapped in imprints. The imprints themselves don't move the way that the shadows move. The shadows can move around. The imprints kind of stay stationary, and you kind of walk through them. And all of a sudden you walk through one, and all of a sudden you might feel sad or angry and wonder why, man, all of a sudden I feel really, really irritated. Nothing happened, because you're picking up the elements of that imprint that you walked through. Those types of things can be cleared with the sage and balanced. The shadow, the snake shadows, it almost looks like a man, or it's more oval and rounded, like a tablecloth hanging off of a table and fluttering along the edges. And then, of course, the ones that are silhouetted more like people, those can be cleared out, and they need to, because they don't follow along with the people when they leave. The people leave those behind. So, yeah, it's important to make sure that your space is cleared so that you aren't adding to it and you don't have anything left behind that could bring in something more negative from other people.
All right, and ufologist wants to know, are all demons evil or bad?
Recently I was watching someone on your show here, Dave, and I don't know all of the information about that, because some people believe that they're useful, but it depends on what your belief system is. I know that the ones that I have come across personally have not been pleasant. However, their ability to act out can be controlled, in the sense that as long as you're not feeding them with the emotion and all of the things that they tend to feed on, then they're not able to do as much. But some people, if they're into that kind of thing, they do use the resources of demons. So it's what you believe. That's what I think.
What should we take away from the other side? What are they trying to teach us?
Well, of course, to love everyone, for one thing. It's amazing how when they cross over, so many things are let go. There's so many things about, choosing your battles and trying to look at things differently. It's so important to connect in with whatever your higher source is through meditation every day, even if it's just 10 minutes or so, and that you can receive their messages directly. A lot of times people, they become hell-bent on doing things a certain way, and they are not listening. So they continue to hit rocks in their life or speed bumps in their life or things like that aren't turning out well for them. And they keep wondering why it's not turning out well for them, but it is for the guy next door. But if you are able to quiet your mind and listen to the guides and your loved ones on the other side that are trying to guide you, you'll find that things go much, much easier for you, even if it's not something that you may want. I have just a prime example of something. I remember wanting to buy a car back when the Nissan had the 200 SX car, and I thought that it was so wonderful, and I wanted to get it. It was my dream car. I ended up going to buy one, and the roof was a little too low for my head, and I couldn't get approved for it at the time, and I couldn't understand why I was so upset. And then all of a sudden, this Saab 900 shows up in the newspaper, and I actually ended up getting that, which was a better car for less money. So I felt that it was at that time my guides and angels saying, no, not to this one, but you can have this one. And that is kind of how things balance in life. Sometimes you may be so hell-bent and determined on having something that really isn't good for you. Maybe there's something better and you're cutting yourself short and you don't even realize it. Maybe you're asking for $100 when you've got $1 million coming, and you're fighting to get that $100 instead of letting go and letting the other one just come to you. So, it is connecting in and allowing your guides to help you, because that's what they do on the other side. Somebody had asked what they do. They do a lot of things, but a lot of it is watching over their loved ones and guiding them. They can be 6 places simultaneously. One person on the other side can be 6 places simultaneously. So they can be standing next to you while they're standing next to your brother or your mother or your sister all at the same time. But they are there to help. But the thing is, too, is they want to be asked. They love to help. If you ask them, they kind of stand back if you don't. So please don't forget to ask for the help that you need. That's another important thing.
Ufologist is asking, when we call in an entity with love in our heart, should it be benevolent? One would hope.
Well, if they're benevolent, they're not going to come in if you call them in with love. At least in my experience, the ones that I've even mentioned the word love, and I've never seen them leave a room faster, like there's a bad smell in the room. So I don't really know how to answer that, because I've never, the benevolent, they don't have, in my experience, they don't have the ability to feel love. They focus more on the negative energies that there are, like anger and sorrow and things that are created that way because they energize off of them. Fear, anything like that, illness and things like that. They focus on all of those sorts of things more so, and the drama and the rippling effect that it creates, not only for the person, but throughout the family. So, it's to me, that's kind of like two opposites, benevolent and love. If it were an entity with anger, oh yeah, they'd be all over it. But with love, I haven't really seen them come in. If you're loving for them, you usually run for the hills. So,
no, for sure, and I could totally understand and appreciate that. When we come in contact or we think we are being visited by a loved one, how do we know it's them? How do we know it's not some dark demon or energy that is trying to conjure up something that hits our emotions?
How you, like I had mentioned, with even children, when something approaches, ask them if it's telling you to do something that you know that you're not supposed to. And there's just a knowing, because the feeling is different. The energy is different. The loved ones that have crossed over, when they come back to visit, they carry that elegance comes to mind, but it's more than, some of that elation that you feel from the other side when you're in a room with someone that's crossing, if you can connect in with it. They bring that warmth, that loving, that comfort. you know that you're connected with them. When you've got the other one coming in, there's a sensory thing going on. It's not as warm. It's not as sparkly. They're coming to you and standing next to your bed in the middle of the night. People that have crossed over aren't going to do that. They don't need to. They can come into your dreams, but an entity that's a lost soul or a demon posing as someone else, like a child or something, those are the ones that are shaking your bed, pulling your covers off, knocking on your closet door and standing next to your bed. If you're feeling uncomfortable, it's not the person, the loved one from the other side, because they will not leave you. They will not leave you feeling uncomfortable at all. It will be very loving, and you will know that it was them.
No kidding.
Yes.
Okay. So, do we look for little signs? I want to just say, like, earlier we talked about the feather from my nephew, and some people get dimes. What about inside our house, or just those daily signs? How do we trust a dream that it's our loved ones?
Again, it goes with the feeling too. You just know. And sometimes too, they come in and you're not allowed to remember what they've talked about with you, or even the visit. But you do know. And sometimes, like with the dime and the feather that was left by your nephew, you might not have even been focused or thinking about him. You might have even been, stressed because you needed to get gas, on the way to work, and it was going to make you late or something like that. So you're hyper-focused on something else, and they just want to add that little extra piece in there so that you know that they are still there in a loving way. So that's where the feather and the dime comes in. In the case of my mother, it's her hair. In the case of my sister, it's the smell of her perfume and those sorts of things. There's just a knowing. I mean, do those, when your nephew leaves those things for you and you stop and you think about him in that moment, doesn't that make your heart swell somewhat, just to know that, hey, there he is again? To me, it's comforting.
I agree with you. I totally agree with you on that. It is very comforting with that. And I think people just want that comfort. But, I mean, sometimes it's just a matter of, is it really happening? Can I trust this? But let's move on here, because we have more questions from our audience. We only got about 6.5 minutes left with you.
I would like to say trust it. Sometimes people are trying too hard or overthinking it. They need to trust it, and more will happen.
All right. B. Hoff is asking, is it the behaviors that cause attachment, or attachment that causes behaviors, or is it both?
In my experience, let's see. Usually it's the behavior that causes the attachment, but the attachment, things that are going to be attaching or hovering close. And I'll explain that this way. Like, for instance, people with addictions. My brother, he's passed away since. He had cancer. As a teenager, he had an alcohol and drug problem. And he actually carried an attachment on his back. And the thing is even after, and it was this lizard-looking thing. It was very ugly with a small head but a bigger body. But I actually have a drawing of it in my book. When he became clean for 20 years, that demon would show up at my house, and it would jump from the corners of the ceiling. It never came to the ground. It would come maybe 3 feet low, but it would jump from the corners of the ceilings. And I would think to myself, my brother's thinking about coming to visit. Lo and behold, within a couple of days, we're loading up the Winnebago. We're coming up to see you and Mom, and he would show up, and that demon would leave with him when he would go. And when I would go to his house and stay, I would see that same thing up on the ceiling. So even though he overcame his addiction and the attachment came off, it was always still hovering around him, lingering. Encourage him to take that drink so it could reattach, or trying to encourage, him to do some behavior so that it was always there haunting him. And he said even for 20 years of sobriety, he was always tempted. And part of it is because even though you get the attachment off, when you have built up that kind of an attachment, it doesn't disappear. It's always there to try to trip you up.
All right, let's get to another question from our audience here, and this one comes from Dr. Zed Smith, because I am Canadian, so I got to say Zed, proper pronunciation of the letter. What is your thoughts on shadow people? No hats, no red eyes, just pure black entities.
The shadow people, are kind of to me are kind of the things that are paralleling, like the snake and the platform with the ruffling edges. There are 3 types. They can also take human form, but these are man-made through thought patterns, through actions that are created, and they kind of start out small sometimes. And like if there's one in your house and they can get bigger and bigger, then they can kind of even group up. In the case of the shadow people, they move around. You can see them. But they are sources that are platforms for demons to enter.
I can see that. All right. Another question from Zero. How do you get rid of entities and attachments?
Okay, well, there's a whole self-help section in the back of the book, but a lot of times in the cases of attachments, first of all, for whatever reason, they're there to begin with. Whether it's a little drug addiction, a little porno addiction, gambling, whatever, that kind of needs to be cleaned up first. Because even with teenagers, when they're sampling drugs or alcohol, they start to get these kind of, they look like hooves almost on their back is the way that I see them. And those are anchors for attachments to attach when they get large enough, and then usually the kid ends up being an alcoholic or something like that. But they either have to be removed by someone, a priest, shaman, somebody that does that sort of thing. They can be removed and taken off, but they'll come right back if the behavior that got them there to begin with hasn't been changed or stopped.
2 minutes left. Do me a favor. Tell everybody where they can find your books, describe your books, your website, and more information on your work.
Okay, I have Omnipresent, which is about the story about the house that I wasn't able to move into. It was that bad. There's a continuation, a sequel to it, which is Omnipresent, What Happened Next. It touches on mental illness, touches on what actually happened next. It also has the self-help section in the back to give you a remedy if you do have demons in your or ghosts in your house that you would like to get rid of. Then I also have the book, The Colors of Heaven, Beginnings Never End. And just let me add this. Omnipresent is available now. The Omnipresent, What Happens Next, is on pre-sale now, but it won't be released until the 15th of October. And then Colors of Heaven, Beginnings Never End will be pre-sale November 1st, and it will be released on December 1st. So if you go ahead and buy them now, they'll be coming out on those release dates that are listed on my website. I have a connection with Big Daddy for people who don't want to do payments through PayPal, and it's a secure site. Also, don't get tricked by anybody that is posing as Lynn Monet. If you go to my site, my picture's there. Talking about my books, you can email me directly there if you have any questions, or if you have anything that you want to ask me that I can help you with. Like I said, I'm still answering my own emails at this time. And reach out and say hello if you want to, or if you need me for something, or if you have more questions, I'll be happy to answer them as well.
Well, you know what? It's been another great show with you, Lynn. It really has, and we absolutely love you here. We are complete fans of your work and your writings, and, I know you got a new book you're trying to get out before the end of the year as well. So, if you get that done, we will definitely want to get you back on the show and keep on working hard and doing what you do.
Well, thank you, and I'm a huge Dave Scott fan. Thank you so much, and everybody, I love you too. Thank you for participating and asking your questions. I hope that some of the answers that I gave bring comfort to people that needed it and validation, and that's what I like to do.
Dave 101 is next on Spaced Out Radio.
Woo.
Great show, Lynn.
Great. Thank you so much. I really, really appreciate it. And I will see you in December.
Yes.
Day 101.
Yeah, we'll get Dirty Filth and Spookles the cat to get a hold of you for another date here.
That sounds great. I would really appreciate it. Thank you so much.
Not a problem.
Anyway.
You take care, okay?
Thank you. Alrighty. Bye-bye. Good night.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Love her. What a sweetheart. What a sweetheart. Hey, Filth, I know you're in the chat room. We definitely want to get her on again. Okay, message me about that, if you don't mind. I'll be right back, guys. Just give me a couple of seconds here. All right. I am back. I am back. Good times tonight, man. Good times tonight. That's a good time. Probably is, as you know. Mighty Moose Beard Oil is a sponsor of ours, and, you know, my beard's feeling kind of edgy after being out in the field. So real simple, just take the little drop box there and, you know, squeeze it into your hand. And you just massage it in. That's it. Takes care of it. Keeps it nice and smooth, clean. And then you just rub the rest in your hair. Why? Because you can. It makes things smell nice, fresh. Ladies, it's great for your hair. Helps prevent split ends. So you go to MightyMooseBeard.com, and Gary the Dutchman is going to message you, and he's going to say, you didn't use promo code SOR 2019, did you? And you're going to be like, sure the hell did, Gary the Dutchman. Give me my deal. And he's going to be like, damn it, I'm Dutch. I don't like making deals. And you're going to be like, tough shit, Gary the Dutchman. Give me my deal on my Mighty Moose Beard Oil. And that's what's going to happen here when you go in and use the Mighty Moose Beard Oil at MightyMooseBeard.com. They got some great scents. It's all natural, no chemicals. Makes you feel great on your facial hair. And for the ladies, even the gentlemen, if you got beautiful hair like I do, or like Joe's Mane, or anybody like that, you know, it's going to make you feel great, smell great, look great. MightyMooseBeard.com. Use promo code SOR2019. Piss off Gary the Dutchman and get your deal today. There you go. Works perfectly. It does. Not going to lie. Thank you to Toe Tag, Chad, Jason, Wreakin' Havoc, Chad, Hector, Lynn, and Sally for the amazing super chats. We're going to kick off the third hour here, or the final half hour here, and it is Dave 101 time. Get your horns up. We've rounded third. We're heading for home tonight on Spaced Out Radio. My name is Dave Scott. Appreciate you tuning in. Want to remind you that if you missed most of this show or others, check out our free archives at youtube.com/Spaced Out Radio. Do me the favor, hit that subscribe button. Our website is spacedoutradio.com, where we have a plethora of features for you, including rocking out to Bumblefoot and reading up on Captain Shirk's SOR Newswire. Follow us on Twitter at Spaced Out Radio and on Instagram, Spaced Out Radio Show. It is time once again for the Dave 101.
It's time for Dave 101.
Dear paranormal enthusiasts, people who investigate, people who are out there looking for their ghostly, whatever you want to call it, do me a favor, do the world a favor, stop mentioning the word science. We don't want science anymore. Why? Let me tell you. I was on The Angry Ghost Hunter, which can be found on our YouTube channel, and a skeptical paranormal investigator, Kenny Biddle, that is, sorry. Keep thinking Rob Dibble, the pitcher. But Kenny Biddle was on, and he mentioned the word science. Now, that is a trigger word for me that has absolutely happened over the last number of years with this show. Why does it piss me off so much? Well, let me tell you, because this is what the Dave 101 is all about. Look, paranormal investigators, I hate to break your heart, okay, but you are conducting absolutely nothing scientific with your investigations. Now, I understand this is going to upset some people. I really do. But the majority of people and the majority of paranormal teams out there that are using the word science to hide behind their ghost hunting adventures is ridiculous. We need to get away from that. Everybody always wonders, why do we not have any credibility in these fields? Credibility. Paranormal people using the word science all the time when you know they haven't conducted a scientific experiment literally since high school. We got UFO people who are wondering and making livings off of lying about their credentials, journalism, scientist, and many others, but they get a free pass. We look at the Bigfoot world. Once again, science comes into play there. You know, whether it's the BFRO or anybody else, I am conducting scientific experimentation on the North American great ape, or the monkey. Look, I'm going to break it down for you. I'm probably going to break your heart. You're not going to believe me anyways. But the reason why I rant about this is because I care about my audience. I care about the information that they are getting. And I watch my audience. I see some of them on Facebook posting, shows from fake journalists, and I see them posting on shows of fake scientific investigations in the paranormal and Bigfoot areas, and it bugs me. It bugs me because we're smarter than this. We are better than this. It doesn't take a rocket scientist or even a Walmart greeter that much difficulty to go onto Google and check what they're doing. Let's start with Bigfoot here for a second. When you are conducting experimentation on anything, and I'm not a scientist, but I know this. When you are conducting scientific experimentation on anything, what you are doing is you are starting with a hypothesis. Then you are trying to find the answers to that hypothesis. Could it be possible? Is there probability that we are going to get a reaction? You then conduct the experimentation, and after the experimentations, you conduct the conclusion. That's it. That's a scientific experiment. Right there. Going into any experiment is not having preconceived notion of what is going on. So in the Bigfoot world, if you don't believe the woo that this creature has been able to just disappear, vanish, footprint trails disappearing in the snow, when there's no trees around, no cliffs to fall off of, no caves to hide in. Conducting opinion is killing these fields. We have brilliant people out there who are making incredible discoveries and incredible forward motion with all of these fields, whether they are amateur scientists or whether they are professionals. And we continue to put our foot in our mouths. Why? All we want is credibility. We always hear somebody say, we want credibility for this field. Why isn't the public taking us more seriously? Why aren't more people tuning into my YouTube channel and seeing my evidence? Because when you conduct opinion, you're not conducting anything scientific. That is the point. So when I hear ghost hunting teams talk about, well, we are conducting scientific strategies in order to prove or disprove the existence of ghosts. Well, what are you doing? What do you do with your evidence? The best way to confuse a paranormal team is to ask them, what do you do with your evidence? They'll be like, what do you mean? Well, we collect it, we gather it, we put it in a database. But what do you do with it? What do you mean? What you should be doing with your paranormal evidence is sharing it with other teams to see if in that same location they got the same results. Also, part of the scientific experimentation is trying to redo what the results were to see if they happen again. So when you go to a location and you're ghost hunting at Mick Jim's bar or Mick Dave's bar and grill that's supposed to be haunted and you're there for 2 hours, it's not a scientific investigation or experimentation. You are conducting nothing scientific. Nothing. Bigfoot's the same way. If you don't want to believe in the woo, that's your personal opinion. But if you are refusing to look at the evidence that people are bringing forward, I'm looking at you, BFRO, and then you are editing posts, editing reports, or not even allowing reports to be filed because of the woo, and you don't want to be wooful, then you are not conducting anything scientific. It's disgraceful to the field. And here we are, always wanting to wave the banner that we're the best, we're number one, trust my research, don't trust the other person's, or we're the biggest group out there, so you need to believe what we are doing. No. No. This entire field is falling apart and continues and will continue to be laughed at because of the way we handle things. There is no professionalism in this field. Very few people are actually professional. I could say that as an outsider who's not a researcher. Yet we want to conduct opinion. Opinion solves nothing. Opinion gets you in trouble. Opinion may get you a television show, may get you a few books sold, may get you a few conferences that you may headline at, a few paid gigs, maybe even, a big interview on one of the major networks. But if that's what it's all about, you're doing it for the wrong reason. Each and every one of these fields has some major questions to answer. For instance, with ghosts, what are they? Where are they? What's it like on the other side? Are they truly people from the deceased, or that are deceased, that were formerly living on this planet? What's it like to die? Is there a heaven? Is there a hell? Okay. Are they from a different dimension? These are questions that we need to be solving. Not, can you knock 3 times? Or can you finish off shaving a haircut? Right? We don't need that. We do not need that at all. All you're doing is playing games. And it's great to play games. Look, I like ghost hunting. I like going to haunted locations and getting freaked out a little bit. I really do appreciate that. I really do. But it's not moving the field forward. Spending thousands of dollars on equipment is not moving the field forward. You look at the UFO field right now. Everybody wants to talk technology. Everybody wants to talk any sort of free energy, anti-gravity. What are the Tic Tacs made of? What are these black triangles made of? Pushing the experiencers who've had real experiencers to the side. We don't buy that because there is no proof. Anecdotal evidence is not proof. Yet, you talk to people behind the scenes, and they will tell you point blank, the experiencer's day is coming. And it's coming fast. We have people showing up just to make names for themselves in this field. I don't mean to crush on Demi Lovato, but how many TV shows would we get if we had 104 million subscribers on our social media accounts? I'm not interested in learning to figure out what Demi Lovato has to say about UFOs. I saw the trailer to her show, not impressed. Not impressed at all. To me, it's everything that's wrong with ufology in the public eye. Well, Dave, you could easily criticize. How could you make it better? How do we make it better? We bring on credible researchers to guide her along her path in learning about UFOs and what they're all about and what's happening. But now she's all of a sudden been taken. So not only is she an experiencer because she saw one UFO, but now apparently she's been taken. That's your future of ufology. Right there. And nothing you can do about it because of 104 million combined subscribers. This is why shows like this one and others who are bigger and some that are smaller struggle. We work our tails off to provide proper information to you. We try to bring you a balanced dedication of the truth, the honesty, the integrity of what people are doing in the field. And if there are people that need to be called out, we can call them out. But we know on this show we like to have fun as well. And sometimes the woo gets a little out of hand, but that's okay. It's entertaining because in the end we're about entertainment for all of you listeners. But for the most part, the investigators out there, if you want to be taken seriously, whether you're looking for Bigfoot, you're tracking down ghosts, or you're searching for UFOs, be professional. be professional. Stop using the word science. Use the word your opinion. Stop conducting opinion for the sake of trying to earn your stripes. If you don't know something, that's okay. We can find out the answers together, because that's what it's all about. The only ones that are putting eggs on our faces are us in this field. And there's a lot of brilliancy in this field that if we actually use the noodles inside our heads, collectively and together, we might be able to solve some of these beautiful issues. But we don't. We don't. And it's unfortunate because there's a lot of cool mysteries out there that need to be solved. But instead, we're looking at science. We're looking at television. We're looking at conferences. We're looking at how can I further myself ahead by saying whatever I want to say in a field that is anarchic as much as the paranormal. And it sucks. It sucks. We're better than this. We can be better than this, but we have to start being better than what we are. And that's your Dave 101. The news is always changing, which is why we bring you the SOR Newswire at the end of every show, where we get to the weird, the strange, the wacky, and sometimes downright awesome. Authorities in Texas said a driver was using a high-occupancy vehicle lane with a skeleton in its passenger seat. Now, they tried to play it off as a Halloween prank, but they didn't fall for it. The cops did. Highway Patrol went and pulled over the person and gave them a nice fine for keeping a skeleton in there. You can't use the HOV with skeletons or fake bodies, mannequins, whatever. They always catch you. It's terrible. Here's a cool story. A California woman visiting the Crater of Diamonds State Park in Arkansas found a 4.38 carat yellow diamond after less than an hour of searching. Noreen Redberg of Granite Bay was visiting the park with her husband, had been looking for gems in an open field for about 40 minutes when she spotted something shiny on the surface. Didn't know it was a diamond then, but it was clean and shiny, so I picked it up. Redberg's husband, Michael, took her to the Diamond Discovery Center, where they found out the 4.38 carat yellow diamond was pretty significant. Well, we don't have a value on it yet, but let's just say that Mrs. Redberg is about to get paid if she wants. Moving on. A great-grandfather in Spain was confirmed by Guinness as the world's oldest living man at 112 years, 211 days old. Saturnino de la Fuente Garcia, born 1909 in Leon, Spain, was certified as the oldest living person, male, September 10th. He has 14 grandchildren, 22 great-grandchildren, lives with his daughter Angeles and son-in-law Bernardo. The supercentenarian said to Guinness, the secret to longevity is to live a quiet life and do not hurt anyone. So we can obviously know, just from that statement, he's never been on UFO Twitter. Thought of the Dave happens every night at this time, where we ask a question on our Facebook and Twitter pages, then read your responses on the air, because we absolutely love the audience participation around here. Today's Thought of the Dave is as follows. If we were to go astral traveling, where are you taking me? I'm curious. Ian is taking me to the Pavo Indus supercluster. Carlito, the tiny gray alien on Twitter. Let's explore inner Earth. If you don't see anything paranormal, at least we can see cool-looking crystals and stuff. Who knows? Sounds like fun. I am in for that. Totally in for that. Maybe we'll see the gnomes mining these gems, and we can find our own 4.38 carat diamond and sell it for millions. We'd be rich, rich, rich. Oscar, let's go to the edge, Dave. Let's see if this sucker's flat. What if it's not, though? What if Earth is round? Or oblong, or whatever you want to call it? What if it's round? What do we do? We can't go to the edge because there is no edge. Dave, the Australians would have fallen off by now, even though Australia doesn't exist. Then why do my listeners talk weird and like swimming with sharks? I don't know, Dave. Can't answer it. Evan wants to go to Old Trafford House to watch Arsenal and Man U. I am skipping that trip, Evan. No way you're astral traveling me to a soccer game. Ever. Science Bob, we're going to go eat breakfast for dinner in a hard vacuum. Gail, I'm not. You'd argue about the direction I chose. We'd have a big fight in space, and neither of us would ever get back home. That's true, Shirky Poo. Scarlet, we're going to travel back to the beginning. Of what? If you're an evolutionist and I'm a creationist, what do we do? We're screwed. Sparkles, to the dark side of the moon. Let's go see who really lives there, if anyone really does. I think Pink Floyd is performing there. They may need a mask, though. Nikki, to the moon, then to the hidden planet behind the moon to see the multiple warrior ETs. Hope they got bodyguard armor on. Kara gets the final word. Well, not the final word, so one of the final words. To infinity and beyond. Magnus, back in time to 1979 so we could see AC/DC play live with Bon Scott on the Highway to Hell tour. I am good with that one. Thank you to everybody participating in the Thought of the Day. We will do it all again next time. Thank you to Captain Shirk for the news. Thank you for all you tuning in to the Dave 101. And Lynn Monet as a fantastic guest tonight on the show. We got Mr. Ron Bumblefoot Thal rocking in the background with Little Brother is Watching. Bumblefoot is the official music of Spaced Out Radio, rocking us in and out of every single show. Get your horns up for the guitar god himself. Special thanks to everybody listening in at home, at work, in your cars, wherever you may be. Thank you to everyone tuning us in on YouTube, Twitch, LGAB, Revolution Radio, Spreaker, Facebook, the Space Travelers Club, and on Twitter at hashtag Spaced Out Radio. I know you're out there somewhere. Remember, this show is copyright by Spaced Out Radio and SOR Media Ventures Limited. Thank you so much for choosing to share your evening with us, because together, my friends,
we're watching.
We own the night. Mr. Bumblefoot, we need a favor. We need you to take us home. Yes, the Woe Train has docked for the night. But soon, my friends, we shall ride again. Your seats are always available. Your tickets never expire. And if you want to bring a friend, we've got room for them too. Good night.